welcome to Laughing Monkey Music Show. Tilly on Mike. How are you?
Hey, how goes?
Good. It's going good. You are. What is your official title with Max Sabbath? Because what are you
Band
officially?
manager.
Band manager?
Yeah.
What an anomaly of a band. And it seems like more bands are coming out with like a niche. And I came across them quite a while back because of the wonderful world of YouTube. Really loved it because obviously it's a great crossover.
Right.
And then when I saw them on the Osbournes, when Jack Osbourne did a special, I thought that was great. Can we talk about the beginning of this? This is something quite special. I do want to say something before we even preface it. I want to name some of the band members. Ronald Osborne, I've written down. Slayer McShees is the best. Grimless and for drums, the Cat Burglar, which obviously is a play on Peter Criss, which is super great.
Yeah. Grimalice is actually
I'm sorry, Grimalice. Yeah, okay, you're right. I have the worst handwriting. That should be a prescription the way it's written so poorly.
Yeah, Grimalice is the bass player. He looks like a giant purple gumdrop. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get. I do. I'm curious about how they play, but can we just talk a little bit the history of where Max Sabbath came from?
Right. Well, as you might be able to see, well, actually, maybe not. But I used to run an oddities museum in Los Feliz, which is like East Hollywood.
Okay.
And so when you put yourself into this sort of freak show world and you're following the strangeness and seeking it out, it only takes a short period of time before it starts finding
Following
you.
you.
Okay. So, yeah. So when you run a place like that, and even after you stop running a place like that, you still get these calls and people coming to you and saying, "Oh, come down to Pacoima and come out to my shed and see my two-headed otter skeleton," or whatever it is. And so I was just kind of used to fielding these calls and doing these things, and you get this call, "Oh, come out to Chatsworth, California, it's gonna change your life," you
Check
meet
out my
meet
crawl space.
Yeah, yeah.
Does this cloth smell like anything to you?
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, come down and to this burger franchise, and it's gonna change your life. And I'm just like, oh, what is it? It's gonna be like a Virgin Mary toasted on a hamburger bun or
Right.
something.
You got to be cheated at this point too. You're like, oh, if I
Yeah,
see one more three-headed fish, like I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
like this point, everyone's like, oh my god, it's awesome. You're like, oh, I've seen so many, or because it becomes normal to you,
Exactly.
like a window washer. You know what I mean? I could never do that, but they do it every
Right.
day. But to
Yeah.
you, this is pretty awesome. This is interesting. So they called you down.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I'll make a deal with them and put it up for auction or whatever. And I go down there and it's a completely different deal. It's like weird this whole thing happened during the day, and then that was weird, and then I had to come back in the middle of the night, and there was a secret like fight club type meeting going on in the basement around
This
all
is
the supplies.
so. This is like a Burger King or a McDonald's or something.
uh, I can't,
A franchise. So this is a
this
franchise.
is a nameless
Oh, neat. Oh,
franchise.
so this unpopular nameless franchise. There was
Yes,
actually stuff going on.
yes,
Oh, this is awesome.
yes. I mean, there's billions of people served by this franchise. Okay, so
Well, I don't think it's Hardee's, but Roy
it
Rogers.
has something to do with the cosmos. Anyway,
Right.
so it's like this. You literally run by the employees, unbeknownst to the general manager. I assume this
Oh my God, this is the best movie premise ever to begin with.
And I literally go, I'm like, so now I'm intrigued, right? And I literally go down there, and they're setting up this thing, and this band starts playing Black Sabbath songs, and these like and it's these mutated fast food mascots, and they're screaming about GMOs and Monsanto and all this, and it's like this anti thing within the thing, and it was just one of the best things that ever.
That is insane. So like they were down there, so you get the Fight Club thing going on, and you get the band.
Yeah. And they explained to me that it's just the secret thing, and that there's these obvious reasons why why it had to remain secret for as long as it did, and that they had read, because I have my own theatrical band in LA called Rosemary's Billy Goat, and they had read something that I had wrote in the press about Black Sabbath, and I think something that I said about food or something, and about Black Sabbath being relevant for, not just invented heavy metal, but invented goth and invented punk and all,
Right.
contributed all
Of
this
course.
stuff. Black Sabbath being the weirdos that created everything that we all hold dear, and it was like, we want you to be the manager and to like bring us above ground, and it's just like, what are you what, like, okay, I get it, they need to get some gigs in LA, and they figure the genre kind of has a crossover, and they decided to pick me because I could help them get some gigs, and like,
Right.
at the places that we play or whatever. And I would just do that, and that would be it. And it would be like, whatever. Because to me, although it was so amazing, it seemed like it was catered to, in a way, my weirdness. I didn't know that it would have the the wide appeal that it does. I didn't know that there were as many people that are as weird as in the way that I am, that it would
Yeah. You're right.
right to them. I just figured, wow, I'm getting lucky here because I'm in this weird vein, that I lucked out on something. But it's like 8 years later or something, and now this is my full-time job. Like, it's crazy. So
So it actually got so big that you couldn't even run the shop anymore. You're so busy with those guys.
yeah. Well, actually, the shop was kind of done at that point anyway. So, but yeah,
It was a good
so
timing, and the COVID probably wouldn't help your shop
yeah,
anyhow.
that happened. I mean, I it was so fast. It got so big so fast. It was playing at this zombie. I had him playing at this zombie walk, this great big zombie festival thing in Long Beach, and it was one of the first few shows. And I had it filmed and put it on YouTube, and that video on YouTube just instantly, like, I don't even know, I wouldn't even know how to do that anymore. How to get
I don't think
start.
it could though. I think you got it the right time. You hit the sweet spot. I think everything
Yeah.
was like the perfect storm of timing for you.
Yeah, to start from nowhere with a YouTube channel that didn't have hits or any like thing to like glob onto, for it to go so fast. And what happened was people were grabbing it and reposting it, and Fox News was the first major outlet that was like, oh, this coked up clown, and they said all this like
Oh, God, clown.
defamation of character kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, what? And then because of that, MTV picked it up and they posted it. And then Black Sabbath saw it and Black Sabbath posted it. When that happened, it was just, I was like, oh, this isn't going out to like 20 million people. It's going out to 20 million of the right people. And then before the band even went out of California, we got offered a festival to play in England, Download Festival, and that was with Kiss and Motley Crue and Slipknot. And I was like, oh, okay, wow. Like, now, wow.
Over 20 million served.
Yeah,
We
are these guys really gonna keep me around now? And And then it came back to California, played Outside Lands in San Francisco, where the band went on right before Elton John.
No, uh-huh.
Like, you know what I mean? I was like,
This has got to be like a book. You must be writing this down. You're gonna have like the best book, a life story book with the band. You know.
right, right. So yeah. So when then I was like, okay, I guess anything is possible, and so
Eh,
yeah,
how obviously the first thing you probably had to deal with was like what defamation of the characters. How do we work around that? Because obviously you guys, whatever one, it's working because you guys are out here this many years later, and it's not going to stop
well
at this point.
they got a solid parody thing going on, and if you look at parody, it goes parody is pretty cut and dry. You know what I mean? Like there was a case of Luther from Two Live Crew did a song called Pretty Woman, which was a parody of Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman. And that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And as you could imagine, since it was Luther, it was pretty nasty. And
Yeah,
and Roy Orbison is just like this,
church guy.
sacred cow, like this. And the judge for the Supreme Court's like, no, Orbison gets nothing. This is a joke. Get over it. So I think that in a way, that parody case going that far kind of solidifies that,
Which is
when
good. I mean, I actually think nowadays, first off, it wouldn't matter as much because
yeah,
the way things are trending, not trending, the world you can say is offensive, not offensive. I think like probably actually mostly helpful at this point. Gives them almost some cool credit points. I mean, if they went after him, they look horrible, to do it right. Who goes
yeah.
after the hamburger or the not hamburger? I'm sorry, Slayer McCheese. Oh, I don't even know where to go. Like your artwork is fantastic though. On the merch, that is some good stuff going on.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I hired the best. I couldn't do it, but yeah, but yeah, I come up with a lot of the ideas of how to do it and work with some of the best artists. Yeah, yeah.
How much are they playing out now?
We just hit the road and did 40 cities in the States, and so just got back from that. So that was like 8 weeks, and now there's just kind of like a few things here and there, before whatever the next tour next jam.
Clubs, like what do you like? I don't think I've ever seen you guys. If I knew you guys were playing my area, I would have seen you.
It's a medium-sized venue, like small concert venues or large clubs, you know what I mean? So
Which is pretty impressive considering they don't really have like a platinum original album out. They're just known for being a creative parody.
well, I used to say this is the most popular band in the world that does not have an album out.
Yeah,
But now I can just say this is the most popular band in the world that does not have a digital album out.
yeah.
Because we did release a 12-inch vinyl with 7 songs that is actually a pop-up book, which since this is video, I should have
You
had
should,
one.
you have it. If you have it, we could.
Well, I would have to go look for it. I don't know
That's
if
all
you
right.
can.
It's all right. It's all right. Oh, I can edit. Yeah,
Oh,
there's technology.
my assistant will be handing me a.
Nice. Your assistant. What? So is it? I don't think I saw that on the website though. Is it on there? Is it still out there? That the album? Or
Well,
is it?
let's hope so.
I didn't. I don't remember looking at it. I was so engrossed in the shirts and the designs. I don't remember everything on it.
It's almost sold out, but it is not quite sold out. So
Well, merch. I imagine merch is a big thing. Merch is big for any band. I can imagine merch is really big for this band, considering just the
yeah, I mean,
song royalties pouring in off of to live off of.
yeah, not a lot of that.
No Macarena to go home and go to Greece for the week. Um, how is this working for the band? Like, is the band obviously they don't do interviews, right? They
Right.
don't, and It's really interesting because they do have the same concept of like a band like Ghost or something, because you really don't know who they are. Or
Yeah, yeah,
Kiss.
it's so anonymous. Like I have this conversation all the time. I'm like, well, I'm the manager. I do the interviews, and they're like, no, we want to interview the band. I'm like, well, yeah, but they're mysterious and anonymous. And they're like, well, we interviewed Guar, and I'm like, well, that's great. We love Guar, but
But they're not
it's
not
more mysterious than Guar.
yeah, there's actually a lot of people. There's a couple of artists out there that I'm interested, but they don't talk. Ooh,
Hey,
look at that.
look, this just handed me.
That
So
is awesome.
yeah, if you look at that, the artwork is the paintings in here are from Grizz Grimley, and Grizz Grimley is a artist that has been known for years to do a lot of like children's books, kind of like
Mhm.
horror children's books. He has a Frankenstein interpretation and whole and all kinds of original stuff that's kind of for younger audiences. And so it's kind of perfect because it's spooky and cute and still family friendly, you know. But he also just the Pinocchio movie that just came out, the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio movie
Yeah, yeah.
is based on Grizz's Pinocchio book. Um,
Really.
yeah. So it has
That
see
is awesome. That is a great
the
merch idea.
see the conveyor belt moves and Slayer McCheese like pops out with this giant side of beef. You see,
Yeah.
so it's like you kind of get the motion there. And so the idea here is, you know, this is how they start out as these kind of wicked, awful killing machines that, you know, work in this terrible, greasy, dystopian environment, you know, and then then they discover rock and roll, and it transcends them to
It's amazing.
a different sort of thing, and then at the end there's this, you know, perfect vegetation utopia, and they've saved the planet with
Which is even funnier because it's
broccoli.
yeah, they don't even have a it's not just like just doing Max Sabbath being funny with McDonald's type of play a parody. They actually kind of a message.
Yeah,
Like you
absolutely.
too.
And then there's supposed to be a record in here, but there isn't, which is kind of funny because that's exactly what happened when I gave this to Alice Cooper. I forgot to put the record in there. And Grizz was like, because Grizz had a thing with Alice Cooper, so you know, and then and Grizz goes, the record, the book that you gave me to give to Alice Cooper, you forgot to put the record in it, and I was like, oh yeah, let me get him one. So this is the same.
Same
Uh,
one. They order it
the
online.
same idea because there's no record in there yet. The problem is we keep the records separate because there is, if you buy this, which there are very few left, you will get a record in there. I can almost guarantee it.
Almost as perfect.
With them in there, but we try to keep them separate because when we're on the road, you don't want to put the records in the trailer because it gets real
The
hot.
heat, right?
They tend to warp and stuff. So, like
That is
my
so funny.
mind.
You so how are the musicians performing in those costumes? Because like some you look at the costumes, you look at
Costumes.
huh? Yeah, the
I said
costumes that look like
costumes.
great. How are they, visually it's
Uh,
gonna be hard. Like I mean, honestly, if you think about like Slipknot, you think of all the other costumes, whether it's a parody band or a rock band or whatever, they still have a good visual. I mean, Ronald Osborne's just more makeup, so he's got the most access. Actually, the drummer too, but two of the guys have like full on costumes and they're playing guitar.
it is. It must not be easy, but for those guys, it's seems like second nature. So they're just very unusual guys, obviously.
The fact that you could even play and see it, like even Jeff Healey was blind and he had to sit down and play his guitar.
Not all of them can see. or
That,
walk, breathe, but we're working on that. So
well, that's what I'm saying. I know those costumes are hard to begin with. There's no ultimate, like, well, there's the air vent, there's a little holder. I'm like, I don't think there's anything really comfortable as a guitar player. You know, you watch Guns N' Roses and Slash will look down once in a while. Everybody has to look down. So that's amazing. So is the band going to do some more recording of some of their songs?
I never, as a it's a unusual position to be band manager because I never really know what's going to happen. I would assume so, but since you got to realize, when it came up at first, and then it was like being a band manager and working with the music industry. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're going to do streaming, and you're going to do CDs, and you're going to do this, blah blah," and then you have to deal with Ronald, and Ronald maintains that he is still living in the 1970s and travels here in a wormhole portal, and so he does not acknowledge any modern technology, and he refuses it altogether. So when I talk like that, it's a big problem. So I've learned not to talk like that anymore. So when I thought we were going to have streaming or a CD or something, we ended up with a coloring book, which I cannot hold up because we are sold out of. We ended up with a coloring book with a flexi disc inside. And everything's got to be, analog, and so it's it was a coloring book, and then I was like, okay, we got that out of the way. Now it's time to do the real thing. And he's like, yeah, the real thing, the pop-up book. You know what I mean? It's like, and I was like, oh, and then the more that I listened to him and we talked about it, I was like, I don't understand why a record company has never done this, because it's a 12 inches, which is a
Size.
great size. And then when you open it up, the pop up is 24 inches. So it's just seemed amazing. And I'm like, why is
Especially in the 70s with all the crazy stuff. That's the Zeppelin with the sliding things and stuff in it.
right? And I found every single reason why a record company would not do this in producing this. And let me tell you, they are all financial. So
Really?
it cannot be a repressing of this. So when
No?
they're gone, and they're probably going to be on eBay for hundreds of dollars. I mean, talk about a collector's item. Like, this is a milestone in well, whatever we're in. It's a milestone in drive-through metal.
So how do you know what's going on? So if you obviously you set the tour up, right? You'll say, hey, we're gonna do a tour, and then that's kind of it with everybody else. Are you with the merch and stuff? Are they kind of like it feels kind of really out there?
Oh, it's out there. It's out there. There are a lot of specific tribulations that I have to deal with, that it's like it's operating in the music industry where the creative forces are anti-music industry. Basically, it's not just an anti-food industry band. It seems to be an all industry band. So anti-industry bands. So yeah, they don't like anything that actually functions.
That would seem like a challenge to actually survive as a band and continually make creative stuff if you
Yeah, yeah,
work against the profit.
yeah. It's always seems like it's on the edge of imploding, but that's part of what makes it exciting. So
What about playing with other artists? Or do people get it? Do they get mad? Like I know, like say he's like a Steel Panther used to just irritate half the rock bands because they thought they were making fun of them because they were, but they
that
were
has
talented.
definitely been a thing. Yeah. Uh, there was so many in heavy metal specifically. There seems to be more of a lack of sense of humor than one would think.
I would think like Elton John would have liked it because I mean he was a duck. Like
Right.
like who's he gonna waddle off the stage and get mad and be like, "What are you doing? You're making a shame of me. A shambles this show," and waddle back.
But there was this thing for a while where there was this sort of backlash where it was like, oh, this is disrespectful and blah blah blah, and like people like think that they were like protecting Black Sabbath and speaking for Ozzy, and then when that thing came out, that attitude just disappeared like that. It was like anybody who ever gave me any of that attitude somehow all saw that thing and just shut up, you know, because Ozzy's reaction was pretty, irrefutable, I think. So,
It was.
yeah.
Because I can imagine doing some shows and people like, what the heck is going on? Especially as the bigger the shows, the more the crowd. Like you're either if you're not in, you're not in. But once you're in, you're fine. But getting to
Yeah,
that point,
yeah. It definitely has that WTF factor where it's like oh, what? This really exists? And then people are just so curious that it exists that I think we pull in a lot of people just that way. And the thing that I hear over and over and over again is like, oh my God, I did not know it was going to be like this. Like, it doesn't matter how much they've watched on their phone or their
right?
laptop. They're like, oh, I didn't understand it could be like this. And oh, it's always like, oh, it's so much better than I thought it would be. And
Thank you.
uh,
Yeah, only
your
go up.
your expectations must have been really low.
That's right.
No, because it is quite a multimedia experience.
Well, there's
So
nothing to wrap your head around like it. I mean, they do sound like when you're in the '70s when you're a kid and you're eating a Happy Meal and your parents got the 8 tracks or whatever cassettes in the car, listen to Black Sabbath and '70s music, and then they leave the Happy Meal box in the car and they find the car in 2000s and the box is warped and that's what the character is going to look like after being in the sun. you know, and from the music, that's what I feel like. That's kind of what happened. That's my
I
origin
like
story.
that.
Yeah, because they will
Uh,
melt and go crazy
I've
on it.
I've heard kids say to Ronald oh, this is my first concert. When they're like
Wow.
meeting Ronald after the show, and he goes, "Oh, they're all exactly like this." And I think that's the meanest thing he's ever done.
That's pretty funny. It's really funny. He's the crossover drug now. That gone from being in the basements. Now it's becoming so popular.
Yeah.
How are you planning a future with these guys? Because they're not really organized. It's just they're about touring and that's it. I mean, you're 7, 8 years in now, and that's pretty good.
Yeah. I the less that I try to plan, I find the less frustrated I am because it's just gonna be whatever it's gonna be, and he's gonna cause whatever to happen that's gonna happen. So I just end up being the conduit between this time and that time, and that's all I can really do.
And any crazy stories on the road? Usually, I don't ask about a crazy story on the road because it just feels kind of pedestrian. But I gotta be honest with you, I feel like everything is a crazy story on the road with these guys.
That question, that question is such a question that I keep saying I need to sit down, and I don't know how to answer it because
Well, it feels like it'd be situational because of how they
the
look and where they're
craziest
going.
thing that happens is when something normal happens.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, like a truck stop, but they're ready in costume for the show, but they have to get ready early. So they're in costume. You guys have to stop and use the bathroom at a Hojo's. Like something like crazy where people are like, what is this? You know?
Uh, I probably say this too much, but the weirdest moment for me, he has this thing where he's always like, "Oh, the other drive-through metal that's ripping us off," and he's always yelling at me about like whatever Cinnabon Jovi is doing or Iggy Popeye's chicken, or whatever it is, and I was like, yeah, whatever, it just seems like more senseless Ronald babble, and I don't really think anything of it. And then we're in this, I think it was Beachland Ballroom in Cleveland, and uh and the opening band is playing, and the singer comes out, and it's Burger King Diamond. And he's got me cornered, and he's yelling at me about it. And he goes, "What is this? You did this," and blaming it on. And I'm like, "I have no idea. about this. He's like, you are in charge of the openers and blah. And I'm like, it's not like it said, it's not like it came back on the spreadsheet and said Burger King Diamond was the opener. You know what I mean? It's the band that had whatever name, and then he came out and sang with them. Like you know, and he goes, I talked to the security and about them letting him in, and they said they didn't let him in. And he goes, I think they're telling me a whopper. And I'm like, oh man. Like this whole thing set up by him to like so he can deliver that punchline. You know
To
what I
just
mean?
you? That is hilarious. That's the craziest. That's like, especially being a dad. Those are the best dad puns ever. Get your puns out here. I mean, you're totally just in that world, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
well, one time a show ended a little early, and I was asking him what was going on. I go, "Oh, what happened? Did you run out of sesame seed puns?"
Like I can't imagine that the being on the road and dealing with those guys and the comedy that would be funny.
You don't want to imagine 50 days on the road. Yeah, it's a lot.
I imagine those costumes got to smell too. Well, most bands are washing out their jeans or their leather pants in the hotel sinks. Big orange outfit, a big purple outfit flopped over the balcony, drying out.
There's some of that.
Have you had anybody try to break and figure out who these people are, who they're like Kiss with them cover their masks when they come out, and people trying to figure out who it
Oh,
is?
there's some investigative reporting going on for sure, but we try to put the kibosh on that.
It's kind of fun actually, be like ruining your surprise of like you're gonna get gifts. It's like knowing opening them early. I know a kid when I was growing up, he for Christmas he's like, I know what I got. I went in, I opened all my gifts, and I rewrapped them. First
Yeah,
off,
yeah, that
way too
one.
much work. First off, you're a psychopath. Like I didn't like wrapping them the first time. Like who does that?
Yeah, have you checked in on him? Is he
No, it was a guy who was next door neighbor.
is he
You know,
living in the polite society or is he locked away somewhere?
he was, it was a weird. I haven't thought about his family. It was like a weird family. Like they were just, you get the families that they're all just weird.
Yeah.
Like when you're kids, you're playing tag and you're like running between cars and stuff, like in a parking lot, like an apartment complex. And I remember we were playing or they were playing, and then you hear a thud. And it turns out he ran out and he got hit by a car. And so he always had this old man lip forever, like going through like elementary school. And it was just like the oddest family. It was the saddest thing. This child like limping after playing hide and go seek and tag. But we're a little off course here for that story. Um,
The opening the presents early, it makes me think of okay, so we bring our own curtain. So when the support band is finished, the curtain goes up and the curtain stays up until the first note and it drops like a
like in the video, I assume, right? That's what it sounds like it was in the video.
so there's a reveal, right?
Right.
And I remember one time, I think it was in Lexington, Kentucky, I believe, and and I was back behind the curtain, helping set everything up, and the curtain was like peeking up a little bit. You know what I mean? Because there was somebody who's trying to do that, who's trying to open his Christmas presents early. And then it's like and I can hear the conversation of the other guy trying to stop him, and then I start hearing him talk, and then they start talking about are you familiar with the Rockefeller explosion, the robot band in the pizza place that later became what's it called? Showbiz Pizza was the pizza place with the robot kid band, and then
Okay.
later it got taken over by Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay. Yes.
But the first thing was the Rockefeller explosion, right? And it was the same thing with the curtain. And he said, and they were talking about that, and they were like, "Oh, did you peek behind the curtain when you were a kid at the Rockefeller explosion at Showbiz Pizza?" And the guy goes, "I never peeked. I wasn't one of the bad kids." And that's exactly what that is. It's like the bad kids trying to peek under the curtain or like get up high and take a
Take a
picture,
picture.
or something,
It is not even like there's like so much worse that you can do in life, but for something that simple, for something so different, like
Right.
the world is so crazy. You know what I mean? All the rock and roll things you can do crazy out in public and get in
Yeah.
trouble for. Peeking
Yeah.
behind a curtain for a performance of a band like this.
Well,
Like,
for
why?
years I've gone on tour with bands and I've worked, big tours. I worked on this big tour with uh Mudvayne. It was this big package tour, Black Label Society and Static X and and uh and um and there were always these kids that were like, "Oh, we want to get backstage. Is there any way that you could like we could borrow your pass and get backstage?" Blah blah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this is like the Wizard of Oz.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
like like this is the side of the curtain that you want to be on. Everything is catered to you. And this is the wonderful fantasy we're bringing you. This is all cushy and nice out here. I'm like, back there's a bunch of like smelly, stained carpets and like bad couches and like bunch of like smelly, grumpy people in bad moods.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I've been backstage enough where I'm
peek.
like,
You don't want to peek behind the curtain. Let us the fantasy that you're paying for is on this side. Don't go back there ever and let the dream live. We're all suffering in that badly smelling, stained carpet and awful colored couch
oh,
and
those couches are like
people
episodes of like
for
CSI.
you because we're working for you, and that's what your ticket price is paying for. This magical golden ticket that you think I have hanging around my neck is a noose.
You could be sitting in a bunch of DNA on the couch. You don't know what kind of crime scene happened there.
A noose that represents the death of the fantasy that we're providing. Yeah.
So, okay, so you have actually dealt with other tours. So you've done some other tour stuff. Was it prior or after this?
Oh no, I've done all kinds of. This has been my life on and off on the road. Got the rambling in my shoe, I guess.
So you took a break from being door manager to get three-headed snakes and
Yeah,
to mix it up.
one could say that. Yes.
Wow, that's quite an eclectic taste you have there.
Yeah. Well, if people that have this touring disease, it happens. They they go and they go and they go and then they try to stop. And it's kind of this awful.
So it's easy to get you. So that makes sense why they would have gotten you. You have a little bit of experience. It's not like you were
It's a
totally.
tug of war of the soul. You're always running, and then you go, "Oh, I gotta stop running. I'm gonna ground myself above," and then you go, "Oh, I gotta get out there." So it's an horrible, terrible addiction that I do not recommend for the kids.
You are funny.
Let them
So
be doctors and lawyers and such. You know what I'm saying?
you your year is just gonna be touring now.
What's that?
What's coming up for the year for these guys? More touring?
Yeah, like small tours, but yeah, there's some West Coast stuff coming up right away. There's yeah, a lot of California, Anaheim, Ventura.
Anything come up on the other coast there?
Not immediately. That would be like further in the year, like a big tour kind of thing.
Like yeah, like New England and up in that area.
That would be towards the end of the year, probably.
All right, keep my eyes open. I'd like to see the experience. Maybe I'll
Unless you
come down
want
and
to
say
go
hi.
down to Florida to go on a cruise.
I don't want to go to Florida for any reason. I'm in New England, so it's like it feels like everywhere else the world's angry at them right now, like with weather. I'm not even talking about like political. I'm just talking about the weather. Everyone else is getting floods and snowstorms. And aren't you out in California? Aren't you guys getting like a mudslide slash drought? Like something's going on there. Like everywhere, the weather,
Yeah, yeah, the rain has been severe for Southern California. So,
but there's still probably fires,
oh yeah, oh yeah. We're always burning down while it's flooding. It's
which
kind of
is crazy. Yeah, so I'm safe. I'll stay where I am. I'll wait till the bands want to come over to my area.
New England's a great place to be.
It is. It's a great place. It's a
Oh, I
premise.
love it.
It's the set for a lot of the scary movies.
Yeah, yeah, it's very
Once it gets dark here, it's horrifying. Between the cornfields and the big houses, the cold weather,
yeah.
everything feels like Ichabod
Lobsters are
Crane.
pretty scary too.
Yeah. You're funny. This has been very eye-opening. I didn't know any of this. It's very enjoyable. I can't imagine behind the scenes. Don't want to know too much, but it is interesting as far
Yeah,
as
I
someone
feel like I've lifted up the curtain maybe a little too much, and I need to
no,
pull it
no, no. It didn't. Trust me.
back down.
No, you don't pull back. You can't run forget anyhow. I still feel like I know less than I know about than I learned more. I still feel like I forgot. I've already forgotten stuff. Um, as far as the band goes, you've been very open and very interesting yourself. Quite a story yourself. So
Oh, thank you.
it's very, very, very fun. Very opening.
It's the strangest life I've ever lived.
It is. You have your own life story. You have your own book in you. Really, sure you do.
Yeah, yeah, I should probably start working on that before I forget.
Yeah, dictate it. Just dictate it into a device. It'll print it up. You don't have to,
Yeah.
Siri will do it for you.
Yeah,
So
I could be a pretty good dictator.
there's a joke in
Or
there
we wouldn't
too.
have gotten this far. All right,
Fun.
really good talking to you.
Yeah, me too. It was really fun. I'm glad we could do this. We'll have to do it again down the road.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good.
All right. Take care, man.
Uh,
Thank you.
Take care, bud.
Bye bye.
Bye.